Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a segment of what I'm going to call Let's Talk About It, where I talk about just stuff I'm interested in at the moment. And today's topic is the Amazon original show, The Expanse. We are going to be talking about seasons 1, 2, 3, so please be aware that there will be spoilers for those seasons. And if you'd like to talk about it in the comments, please only talk about seasons 1 to 3. I do not want spoilers, because I am quite enjoying this. Now, I am also here with my two co-hosts, cats, Nessie and Phantom. There's a little Phantom. Hey, Phantom. So you may hear them throughout this video, so do not be alarmed by the random cat meows. So I guess to start off, what is The Expanse? The Expanse is a show that takes place in Earth's future, where we have expanded into living on some of the planets, Mars most specifically, and we also have space stations that float around space. So at the time of this series, there is tension between the three main sectors, which is Earth, Mars, and the Belt, which is a space station, kind of like colony. And they are on the brink of a civil war. And also during this time, there is kind of like some unrest in the medical sector kind of thing. There's a new element discovered, and everyone's kind of fighting over who gets the rights to this. And the main character at the start of the series, we're going to call him Detective Miller. He is in charge of finding this girl named Julie Mao. Sorry for any of my pronunciations. That has gone missing. And she possibly has a connection with this strange new alien element. So, when I first came across this series, a while ago, because I feel like it came out a few years ago. I don't remember, honestly. I was just kind of like, meh. I don't feel like watching this. It just looks dramatic and spacey, and I mean, it is. But, recently I have been really into space shows. I just love space shows in general. I've always liked Star Trek, Star Wars. The Orville is something I've really enjoyed recently. The Alien franchise. Those, I take them with a grain of salt. They are horrifying. But wow, those aliens look cool. We're not gonna get into that today, though. Anyways, but I was like, I really want to watch something that involves space and aliens, and I was like, you know what, this looks like it could have aliens in it, so we're gonna give it a go. And so I gave it a go, and I started watching it, and there was no aliens. And I was like, but there has to be. Something about this tells me there has to be aliens. Why do I not see aliens? It's just people. And I kept watching because I was still intrigued. I was like, there's gotta be aliens at some point in this. It's a space show. We've expanded, going out into space. There has got to be some kind of aliens. And I need them to get intimate with the aliens. Because that is what I was looking for, to be fully honest. I just wanted some nice interspecies relationships. And I kinda almost got that. So, going kind of back to the world of The Expanse, something I really enjoyed about was it was very realistic in its settings. Technology hadn't advanced far beyond our wildest dreams. Everything was kind of in grasp. It was something I could see us evolving into technology-wise as we get better with space travel and stuff like that. And the characters were dealing with real problems that we face now in society and will continue to face in the future, such as water shortages, shortages, things like that. just housing crisis, and I'm getting a whole bunch of Facebook messages as this is happening, and I should probably turn off my sound because I'm worried this mic is going to pick it up. Anyways, okay, back on that. So I just appreciate how, like, real feeling it was. Another element that is not a current issue, but was a probable issue in the future is lack of air, actually, clean air. Now, of course, some countries in this world already suffer due to poor air conditions, but air is still available, even in poor quality air. But out in space, there is no air. So you have to make it. So a lot of space stations, they have plants that can filter air out and different machines that clean and filter. But they have issues where, like, can't get good quality filters. People are skimming money to, like, save on costs. So the filters aren't good. And so people are, like, dying of diseases because they can't get clean air, or because they haven't got enough oxygen, or they've been in the low gravity for too long. There is a lot of genetic conditions and just overall bone damage and stuff like that. Which I found really interesting, because that's not really something that is addressed often in these space shows. Like, when you're watching a space show, they'll be like, oh, everything's perfect. We've got the technology to fix that. It's okay. Everything's okay in space. Because we've advanced past that. But this takes place before all that advancement, which is more kind of absorbable and more kind of, like, relatable. It's more relatable. So yeah. And one thing I really liked was Detective Miller, to be honest. He was kind of cool. He was a morally gray cop operating kind of both sides, but he still wants to do a good job to protect people, even though his time in the force has kind of hardened him, so he's kind of lost sight of that a little bit, but he's still kind of got the right intentions, but he doesn't know how to go about it. And Julie is kind of like his awakening call, his realization that he has gone off the wrong path, and it's kind of like love at first sight for him. When he sees a photo of Julie, he's like, I'm going to save this woman. This is my purpose. This is how I'm going to redeem myself for getting off the wrong path. And I thought that was very interesting, because he was also, I don't know, he's just kind of fun. Also, he's just kind of a cool guy. What I really would have liked is he gets a sidekick in the first few episodes. I believe the sidekick, I forget his name, I'm so sorry, is from Earth, and he has traveled up here to be a cop and assistance. Really, I'm thinking they gave Miller this partner to kind of be a burden for him, essentially. Not that the guy himself was a burden, but they were hoping that this Earther's views would kind of distract Miller, I suppose, from finding Julie. Even though he's been tasked with Julie by the police, they don't actually want him to find her. It's more of a distraction because they know if he, like, awakens to the wrong, and, like, he's a powerful man, kind of. Not really, like, with, like, money value or anything, but he's very influential. People like him, kind of thing. So he has a lot of sway with the people of the belt. But yeah, but his sidekick. I liked his sidekick. His sidekick was like, I feel like everyone should be treated equally. I don't see why we have these boundaries. And falls in love with this prostitute that is living in the belt. And she teaches him the language of the belt, and he just ends up staying with her. And Miller doesn't agree with this. He's like, there's a clear hierarchy between everyone on this food chain of food chain of value, I want to say. I think Miller has a very different people have different values kind of view sometimes. But yeah, so his partner then quits working with Miller to actually embrace the culture of the people around him, which I really liked that guy. I thought that character was interesting. He was like morally good. Well, he was like the opposite of Miller, but I thought their interactions could have progressed somewhere to like help Miller learn how to appreciate everyday life kind of thing. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. Also, I noticed there's this thing with a bird on the ship where Miller keeps seeing this bird, and it reminds him of Julie. And I was wondering, did they like bring the bird through space onto that spaceship? They would have had to. And why would they have brought birds into the artificial spaceship? Because I know there's trees and grass and stuff. But the birds wouldn't be essential to maintaining those. So it was like aesthetic wise, was it an accident that the birds ended up there? That was just a little side rant, but I was like, what the heck? Why is there a bird in the space station? Is it just to make people feel like they aren't out in space? Because also the birds weren't doing great. They're having trouble flying because of the low gravity and stuff, so they have damaged wings like a lot of the people that live in low gravity, which was like, kind of felt bad for the birds, to be honest. And what was my next point I wanted to make? Well, all the characters, something I noticed was I kept flipping back and forth between if I actually like them or not. Because they'll do something and you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible, I really don't like this character. And then they'll do something else and you're like, oh, they're kind of cool for doing that. Maybe they're actually not as bad as I thought. Maybe they have good intentions. And then it would flip back and you're like, oh, wow, maybe they are just a horrible person. Character that I felt most strongly about that was, I'm going to call her Christian. It was something kind of like that. She's like, what was she even? I don't even know what her position was really. She was like high up in government, some kind of like, not embassy. She wasn't an embassy person. But she was like, I'm gonna say advisor, kind of. Like she was a step below the vice president, essentially, or kind of like on par with the vice president. But I didn't like her character at all when she's first introduced. And then I kind of grew to like her more about learning about her backstory and just some of her like methods, or just they kind of did make sense. But she also did some things that I was like, what are you doing, girl? Like, clearly that's not the correct direction you should go with this. And it was really confusing, to be fully honest. But yeah. But eventually, back to the alien thing, the aliens show up. And it turns out that blue, weird, glowy stuff that I was like, that's just plants. They're like, that's the alien. And I was like, wait a second. You're telling me this virus plant thing is the alien you're introducing? Well, that's not fun. And then I was like, wait a second. This is pretty interesting, actually. It's like, how do you stop this thing? Like, it's taking over. It's insane. I'm really just rambling now. And then when, like, Julie got infected, and I was like, this is really weird. Like, this is how this is gonna end? She's dead? This seems a little odd. But yeah. And then the whole thing with Miller, and then the virus turned I'm calling it a virus, it's not really a virus though, I guess alien. The alien turned the meteor into a ship That was pretty interesting, and then you learn it's more technology-based than, like, plant-based, which that was a big twist. And then the whole scene with Miller... Oh, wait, actually, I keep saying the whole scene with Miller. But there was a part I wanted to mention before the end of Season 1, because Season 1 mostly focuses on the introduction of the alien species and kind of like world dynamics. But I guess I should mention Holden. There's the group with Holden and all the people on his ship that kind of survive, and they create a crew together. I love that crew. Their dynamic is awesome, I must say. It is pretty funky. And I don't know, they just have a good dynamic. Like, some of the situations they're in weren't good, and sometimes the communication is horrible. But, like, overall, they just kind of, like, trust each other. And if they talk about it, like, if someone breaks that trust, they all talk about it. And figure out how can we move forward to improve ourselves. Which I think was nice to see, instead of just full chaos everywhere. Now back to Holden. We're going to mention something about Holden. Because Holden and Miller have an interesting relationship. They're very back and forthy. They're very opposite-y also. And there was one point, I was like, are we going to get a Miller-Holden couple? Because this sounds good to me. And then Miller is so obsessed with Julie. And then Holden... I can't remember her name. Oh, hi, Nessie. I can't remember her name. What is her name? Naomi, there we go. Naomi. Miller and Naomi hook up, which is not a bad pairing. I don't dislike that pairing. I'm not gonna deny. Miller and Naomi, I am cool with that. Like, I think it's nice. They have an interesting relationship that goes back and forth, but I was like, Miller and Holden, please. And then later on, I was like, Amos and Alex, please. And then that I still have hope for. But then I was like, Amos and the doctor? The plant doctor dude? Maybe? Possibly? You said he was your best friend in like season 2-3? That could be a thing. And then you raise the kid together? That could be it. But nope, not yet. Amos, we're finding you someone. Ugh. And I still kind of have hope for Miller Holden, to be fully honest. We're holding on. Anyways, Miller is so obsessed with Julie, though, that when the spaceship meteor thing goes away, crazy, wow, woof, explosions. He goes on that ship to try and save Julie still, and to convince the ship to not crash into Earth, which is a big problem. And so he does, and Julie's actually alive. She has been converted into one of the aliens, essentially, but she's still humanoid. And as much as I wanted Miller Holden, that scene where Miller confesses to her, and then they die together, crashing into Venus, that was really emotional. It was beautiful, honestly. I did really enjoy that scene. I thought it was executed well, because you know how it's kind of weird how Miller hadn't actually met her before, and she didn't know Miller, and he's just confessing to her here. He's like, I don't know you, but I'm confessing to you. Normally that'd be a little creepy and weird, but the way they set it up, it was like they had known each other for their whole lives. Like, they just knew that they were meant to be together, and Julie did not question Miller's commitment to her, even though they had just met. And I thought that was really beautiful soulmate kind of love at first sight moment, because while Miller fell in love with first sight with Julie also fell in love with Miller at first sight. And they spent that kind of like fleeting moment or their last moments together. So you don't see that kind of like angst after, because you know how like love at first sight doesn't always work out. Because that's just kind of, usually surface level things. But we don't get that angst because they spend all that emotion together and there's nothing beyond, because it ends. Or at least you think so, till it goes on to the next seasons. And there's definitely going to be stuff about the next seasons I'm going to forget to talk about, because now I'm so distracted. I mostly just wanted to talk about season 1, to be honest. But I don't know, I love how it just evolved. Like, it evolved naturally, the series, kind of. Like, they don't try and make any, like, giant claims of, like, oh, all this happened in this time frame, everyone's falling apart. It's like, oh, things have changed. Some people are still sad, because sometimes you're just still sad after a traumatic event. Some people have healed, though, and that's okay. They're working through it at different rates. That's how it goes. But it also doesn't need to be, like, super dramatic. Like, because of this event, his whole life has fallen apart. He's crawling apart. Because Holden, well, he became super depressed after that and kind of, like, lost. He still had his friends to support him. So he wasn't fully alone. So he didn't kind of completely fall apart. Which was nice to see. Kind of like that kind of in between. It wasn't like, it was still an important kind of like sad and drastic moment or time period, but it wasn't like, end of the world kind of thing. I think that's season 3 actually, not season 2. But yeah, and as they learn more about the virus and stuff, and more people are getting involved, interested, more characters introduced, kind of like you fight with the thingamabobbers. Also, I found the thing with the ring very interesting. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So, we have this jellyfish thing that comes out of the ground. And it's like, I love how the alien is always on the cusp of being something biological and something like technological. It's just like that cusp of, yeah. And it's just like, I'm losing my, what did I want to talk about? Who knows what I wanted to talk about? I honestly just thought the whole segment with the ring was really cool. I didn't expect any of that to happen, really. I knew that, like, Belter dude was going to fly into the ring and die. That was a little obvious. But I thought the whole thing of, like, having to figure out what speeds they're running at, how to, like, convince the alien that they were not the threat, Miller kind of being, like, absorbed into the conscious. So it's, like, it's a hive mind, but, like, separate also. So, like, Miller still has his own individual thoughts, but, like, he's connected to the hive mind. So if he tries to escape his hive mind too much, they will kind of destroy him and then reconstruct him, and he starts over from a certain save file, essentially, which I thought that was really interesting. And I really love how season 3 ended with the kind of like all the different portals open up, because they had gained the trust of the alien, and then so the alien showed them all the portals to the other dimensions, which opens up a whole new universe going forward, which it feels more Star Trek-y, I guess, because now there's many lands to discover. So it's kind of like shows how rapid things can change also when new elements are added. And I'm very excited for the exploration of the different rings. And I'm also curious to find out what wiped out the species that made the rings. It's very interesting. So yeah, that's all I can think of that I wanted to talk about at the moment. But yeah, there's probably more I wanted to say, but because this was unscripted and I was just kind of going on and on about things, I don't remember. But yeah, so I'm excited to see the next few seasons of this interesting original series. I think there's 3 more seasons. There's 6 total. I have been told that they do not cover all of the books, though I'm not sure if that is true or not. I guess I will find out if it ends in a cliffhanger or not, and then I'd be sad. And then try and find the books on the Expanse. But yeah, I thought it's just really well done overall, and there's like so many different elements at play, and there's a lot of different characters, but that none of them feel out of place, essentially, even like the tiny side characters and stuff. I think that was very good. So clappity clap clap for the Expanse. I highly recommend this if you haven't seen it yet. It's pretty cool. And Amos, please, we will find you someone. So I think that's all for this segment of Let's Talk About It. And I'm sure I will have something to talk about soon. So this has been Brooke Suzuki. And yeah, you can follow me on my social media. Most of my tags are at Tori Hakaru. They are not all the same because, yeah, I'm bad at organizing things. So some of them are just Tori Hakaru. Some of them are Tori Hakaru art or _art. My Twitch is Brooke Suzuki. I don't currently stream there, but you're welcome to follow me in case I do. And my YouTube is Tori Hakaru, but the title of the YouTube channel is Jinling's Favorite Uncle. So you can kind of find me under all those social media titles, because I am a very indecisive person that changes my social media tags a lot. But it's at least kind of relatively consistent. So thank you for listening to this talk with me, and I'll be signing off. Bye bye.